Buenos días. Good morning. We'll start this morning in English. Well, first two announcements. We've changed the hashtag to eMadridNet, which is the one we always use. So if you want to be seen online, please use in Twitter eMadridNet hashtag. And this also appears on our website. Secondly, but this is not important for you, the streaming URL has changed. It's now a different one, but it will be announced on the website for those who are not here. There are people outside of this room watching us, so you should be aware that this is happening. Okay, this morning we have two very interesting keynote speeches. The first one is from Fred de Vries from the Open University of the Netherlands. He is active in the area, in particular, of mobile learning in the Center for Learning, Science and Technologies, CELSTEC. He combines this with working out for the Executive Board of the University's Internationalization Agenda, and in CELSTEC he's a member of a small team focusing on innovation and R&D in the mobile learning program. This is part of an overarching program named Learning Media, which includes a media lab and themes including immersive, mobile, and social media. Thank you very much for coming, Fred. And
thank you.
Looking forward to your talk.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Yes, when I was asked to do this, when I was asked to do this presentation, I had to come up with a title, so I came up with Mobile Learning Opportunities and Pitfalls. And now I realize, actually yesterday, that's a bit too, too negative. The reason I remembered just now is that when I was writing this title, I became aware of a big project in the Netherlands where a school gave all their students, a couple of years ago, laptops, and now they gave them all iPads. And when you talk to them, especially to the students, you found that let's say in 7 out of the 10 subjects they are being taught, nothing particularly was done. I mean, except from instead of giving paper handout, they would say, "Okay, go and look at your iPad." And that's what I said. Wow, this is a pitfall. I mean, we know all these mobile devices are quite new. We know how it works. First, you replicate things which you have done with other older media before. But I think the developments go so fast that the researchers and innovators in the educational field, they should be more on top of it and say, okay, how we make good use of all these new opportunities these media offer. So I removed in the slide here the pitfalls. Just to follow up on a little bit on where I'm from. I mean, the Open University of the Netherlands has its main campus in the south of the Netherlands, near Belgium and Germany, near Maastricht. You may know Maastricht. We have a very nice campus. We have around 20,000 students, 60 million euro budget. We have study centers in the Netherlands and in Flanders, the Dutch-speaking part of Belgium. And CELSTEC, the Center for Learning, Science and Technologies, is a core research center for actually the whole higher education in the Netherlands, where we are dealing with learning technologies, adult learning, lifelong learning agendas. And I think for the Netherlands, we are quite big. I don't know how it works here in Spain, but it's a quite concentrated group, and we are doing, of course, lots of projects. If you look at the group I'm in, I don't expect you to read all this, actually, but it is a nice overview if the slides are shared afterwards. In the mobile learning group, which is small, we have around, I think at the moment, around 12 people. Marcus Pecht, you may have heard about him. He's leading this group. I'm a member of the group, and we are actually doing all kinds of projects across actually 3 lines. First, mobile and ubiquitous learning content. This is more or less a bit different the kind of things Peter Scott showed you yesterday, with aggregating content, videos, e-books, e-book content, things like that. Then we have the second theme, orchestration of seamless learning supports. This is about access to learning media LMSs, mixed reality games, excursions, augmented reality, which I will talk about mainly today, and mobile learning games. And the third and last theme is more a situated learning experience. That's where we work with context-aware systems. So imagine you walk somewhere with your smartphone or with a tag on you, and the screen in the hall will notice that you're there. And we are actually trying to find out how we can make good use of that. We have a whole series of projects, very different if you look at the subject matters. It goes from architecture to cultural heritage to logistics, e-health. Actually, it's a very nice example. We have a project now, it's called Emergency, where laymen, I mean people that have no qualification, no medical qualification, are giving first aid to people that have a heart attack. So they need immediately treatment, and of course you have to dial 112. But it's what they call it Eurasia project, dealing with Dutch speakers, German speakers, French speakers, all around in the border area where we are located. And then we have of course we do a lot of research, but we have a whole spread of activities, also services, especially for other, let's say, non-profit organizations, but also companies we want to work with. Industry, I mean, you can imagine with if you look at devices, if you look at mobile operators, and it's all about innovation of learning with the use of mobile technology. And sometimes you do smaller assignments for companies that want to see how effective a certain tool is and how they can improve it. Of course, we are mainly virtual, but there is a physical side. We have a lab where you can actually do hands-on on most of these projects and tools we are developing. Sorry, man. So now about my talk for today. I want to focus with you on augmented reality. Okay, it's all about using smartphones, smart devices, which happen to have lots of capabilities which are new and are developing very fast. One of the things you can do is augmented reality. Of course, everyone, you know it. If you have a smartphone yourself and you are somewhere in town, it will actually know where you are. You can, if you lost your way, you can find your way back. You can have it in cars, of course, since a long time. But nowadays, it's a personal device. And if you look at the picture on the left, you can actually, if you're somewhere and you look at in this case at a I think it's a church. I cannot see it very well. Yeah. Then if you point your smartphone that direction, it will give you information, historical information. Could be taken from Wikipedia, could be taken from anywhere, about what you see. So what we are exploring here is the use of different realities. If you go from the two extremes, you have on the left, you have the real environment, where we are. On the right, you have the virtual environment. It's completely online. And you can make, from both sides, a step to the middle. You have, of course, virtual environments where you can add more virtual objects. Now, that's obvious. But the interesting one is actually if you add virtual objects to your real day-to-day environment. And what we are trying to do in the few projects I'm going to describe is to see which senses you can use. Of course, you can use sight, hearing, taste, smell, touch, balance. And if you think about modern smartphones, you can as you just saw in the small example, the picture, what you see, you can add a layer with the camera and the information pulled in your mobile phone. You can add other audio channels. Okay, taste and smell. I don't know. I didn't see good examples. Maybe one of you know an example. I would be happy to learn about that. Touch, tactile. Actually, there are tools there, especially for people with a bad sight. Balance. Actually, this is important. If you look at smartphones, even in the small example I showed you, the direction and the position of the camera, or your phone, sorry, you can interpret, and together with the picture, the software can make make conclusions from that. In the projects, or actually it's a developing project in phases. What I'm going to talk about today is called AR Learn. Nowadays it's a toolkit. It's called Augmented Reality for Learning, and I'll focus on the hearing, because that's the first project we've done. It's already 2 years ago, where we had a very small project. I mean, for our Dutch network organization for IT, for all the universities, where we are exploring the use of augmented reality. And what we did the year before is a big study on augmented reality, and we found that most of the applications used were heavily relying on the fact that you have an extra visual channel. And you can, of course, hold your phone, but you can also have special glasses, or you have a helmet or things like that. We said, well, that's not really scalable, and that's not really useful. So let's start with something which is available. It's in a smartphone, is the audio channel with your ear set. Yeah? So, I don't know whether this will work. Yeah? I hope the sound is working. What you see is a student walking in Florence to a building where there is something waiting for him.
In de onderste zone van de Campanile zijn rondom in reeksen zeshoekige reliefs aangebracht.
No one understands this,
Een
of course.
volgorde is betekenisvol. Beginnend bij de zijde tegenover het baptisterium bevinden zich in de onderste zone.
This is the tutor of this student who is walking at that very moment in Florence, giving him an assignment, a task, on the building he is studying, or actually it's the walls of the building. And the assignment has been specially prepared for that particular student. And okay, in this example, and I'll show you some more in the next slides, the tutor is actually present in Florence, but he's not standing with that student, because he has 10 students walking around in the center of Florence. Yeah? So it's a way where actually assignments, in this case very specific ones for students that have to write an essay on something in Florence, can get to them. That's again same, I think. Yeah.
In de onderste zone van de Campanile zijn rondom.
Okay. This we developed 2.5 years ago, and over time we did a few more projects, which I will touch on. We developed some kind of toolkit, I would call it. It says here architecture, where you can actually build lots of educational endeavors. You can call it games, you can call it specific assignments. It's not, I mean, it has to have a name, but you can do lots of different things with it. Basically, because you use, I don't know whether you see this, no. You use the location, you can use the direction in which the device is pointed. You can use triggers based on manual intervention of the tutor, interventions of the student himself. The student can make pictures, can make their own audio recordings, make notes, and you can all put it together in a rich media environment, making use of the fact that it's known where the device is actually located. Yeah? And if you see here on the top, you see it says Android. Of course, we are actually developing for the Android platform, basically because we're a university and we want to share our results, including our software, freely and openly. We cannot do it with iOS. And we use, in this case, Google Street Views, and it also connects to ambient displays. I'll go now a little bit deeper in the 3 case studies I have. The one I just showed a little bit about, the Florence case, what everything started with. It's what they call in English a scavenger game. It is, of course, augmented reality, and it's what they call, pedagogically terms, is situated learning. Then I want to show you completely another way, is that you don't work with a mobile device, but everything is on your computer screen. It's like it's with Google Street View. It's an adventure. It's also augmented, and it is called expository learning. And then the last example is a completely new game. It's a more decision game using the augmented reality, and it's learning through decision making process. So again, about the cultural science field trip in Florence, you have to imagine that our cultural science students, they are studying for many years, mainly on their own. They don't have classes. They may now and then have a seminar. They do the exams alone. And sometimes they have assignments where they have to work in couples or in 3 to 4 with 3 to 4 people. But that's about it. Actually, if you look in the end of the bachelor phase, the fact that they can go to actually do research in a very rich environment like Florence is really a big thing for them. But at the same time, if anyone who has been in Florence see, it's also very overwhelming because there's so much to see, and we found that students find it difficult to focus. At the moment, they go with a group of 20 students every October to Florence with a tutor, and it's like, it's basically like an organized tour. They go through everything, and the tutor is showing them, pointing out the details. They may have studied before in other resources, in books, but it's a lot of information. Okay, we didn't change that yet, but what we added is that after this trip, they all have to write an essay, a report, focusing on one of the things they can find. They know before they go to Florence what will be the subjects, and they actually have to gather this information during this 5 days. But you can imagine that it's very busy for them, and they don't have much time. So what we did is actually create a slot of half a day where all the students can do their individual work for their essay. And that's what's happening. They get the smartphone, and they go into town, and they know where to go, and they would see on the screen, and they would hear it in their ear what the assignments are. And basically, it takes a very simple approach. It's text, spoken and written, with some pictures, like you see in the middle. There is a drawing. This is explaining what students have to do. And then the important thing is, once they are there, they have to actually collect data. They do that in 2 ways. They either they take pictures of close-ups or bigger pictures, and they record their voice as notes. We did this already twice, and the next time will be in coming October. And in the first version, students would also make notes using the touch screen. Yeah, and we gave them the option. Some did, of course, but they found it a very tedious thing, and they were not very handy in it. So actually, of course, technically it's still possible, but we don't promote it anymore. So students do mainly audio notes. I don't know whether any one of you does audio notes or when you have a secretary. people, I mean, in the first run already of the pilots, people appreciated that it's a very smart way to do it because it's very fast, and once you're back home, you can listen to it and you can work it out. But many felt awkward recording their own voice, and especially more awkward listening to it. But yeah, I think if you overcome that hurdle, it will be fine. And the same goes for taking pictures. Of course, this is obvious. This is what people like to do. And is it going? Is it working or not? Yeah.
In de onderste zone van de campanile zijn rondom...
So this is the same, well, it's a similar example. The difference is that you see that there are, I don't know whether you can see it, it's not very clear. But you see green balloons and purple balloons. And what we've done is actually trying to find out whether the students would only focus on the specific information, which is for them, or they will also go into look for what other students, I mean colleagues of them, are actually supposed to do. We found, okay, technically it's possible, and maybe we put it in actually because you imagine if you do this year over year, people would go back to the same location and they could actually make use of the results, the findings of other students. Yeah. Okay, we don't do it too long enough actually, I think, to profit from that, but that will be in the end be the idea, that you can actually go to Florence, not with the group, but any time in the year when it suits you, and see the work of your other students if that they have left there maybe the day before or maybe 2 years ago. It's all there. Yeah. And I'll just leave it there. And this actually, I want to show you this because here you see how it works. Yeah, you see the students that make the pictures. You can play them, of course, when you are. You can check them when you are there. And this is the kind of pictures they take. So which is. And this is a student making his audio notes.
Ik zie hier op de rechter hexagon Toebalkijn, de eerste goudsmid.
Okay, and what's important is I don't know why, but I don't have a picture of that.
Plato en Aristoteles.
The whole idea is that when the students go back home, all their notes, pictures and audio and written notes, if they have, are available in an online portfolio. It's a web page where they can actually access it. And what we found is that students use this information. Well, we cannot force them, but we can see from the logging that they actually use it when they write their reports. So to sum it up, students they walk to a position, they make the notes, and this is the last thing I want to mention. Is in the last run we added the possibility of a manual intervention. So let's say, I don't know, let's say a student is not very serious about it. He goes somewhere, he does his assignment, and then he's actually going too fast and doesn't do it seriously. As a tutor can watch live what's happening in that afternoon, he has the opportunity to do a manual intervention. We had a bit of doubts there because it's like a big brother is watching you, but and it was not necessary actually in this case, but technically it's possible, and it may be needed when you do this completely on your own, when you go alone to Florence and you may be lost, I mean something, or in an assignment and you don't know what to do, so you can ask the tutor once you're there. other interesting things he found is that students perceived the device as a navigation device. Although they have a map of Florence, which is actually very easy, they would also use it to find their way, which was not intended, and but still people do it. But it's, I don't know, everyone, if you have been in Florence, it's not very reliable because of the bad GPS signal. Anyway, all students in both runs, they were very keen with collecting high-quality notes they could actually use for their reports. And the last point here is that's an opinion of the tutor. He found that the quality of the essays, the students that use the device had a tendency to be more of higher quality. Mainly because they took their fieldwork more seriously, and they were actually thinking, okay, now I collected all this data, and now I have to use it. Yeah. And this, I think, I mentioned as well. Yeah, the one last point is, of course, what we had to find out is the complexity of the assignments. In the first run, we had, let's say, assignments with multiple tasks. That's too difficult, because if you listen to an assignment through your earpiece and you can actually get 3 things to do, you may forget, well, obviously the third one, and may only remember the first 2. So then you have to replay it again. So we had to chop it up in smaller chunks. Other lesson learned, I don't know, it's quite obvious. The one I want to mention is that, okay, ideally students use their own smartphone. We didn't do that, of course, in the pilot, but so the ones that were not used to the phone, they had to actually take the day before to make themselves acquainted with it. Battery life is an issue. I mean, nothing big. I mean, if you do network operations with the internet and the GPS, then it eats the battery quite fast. Yeah? Okay. What we are doing now and will be publishing is to explore more how much human intervention is actually needed. Because we do this with the support of the tutor, but of course he likes to be there for his students, and he likes this trip, and the students appreciate it. But as I just mentioned, on the long run, you could actually create a much bigger capacity for having students do their fieldwork. Because from the hundreds of students that want to do this field trip, we only have a small capacity for 20. So on the longer run, we can run it on their own. They can run it on their own. Now I want to show you a little bit of an opposite example. Actually is using the same toolkit. The technology is the same, but instead of walking, in this case, walking through Amsterdam, you actually explore Amsterdam by using Google Street View. Yeah? And why we choose Amsterdam? Because actually, as it is a cultural heritage, Google has actually pictures of most of the center. What's tried here with the students is that they get a game. It's actually a historic event where someone is. I mean, it's a police case where someone is smuggling marijuana through Amsterdam, very interesting locations. And the idea is that the cultural students, on their exploration, collect information and ask questions about the cultural heritage of the city. And okay, I'm sorry, it's all in Dutch. No, sorry, this example is in English, but the actual things are in Dutch. But what you can see is you get the idea. So you see the picture of Google Street View, and then on the bottom you see a box and a flag and a question mark. These are artifacts which are put in the picture, and when you pass it and click on it, you can get something to you get a question. Yeah, it's actually this text, you cannot read it. It's English and Dutch together. So you get a question which has to do with the city. So in order to do this game successfully, so you need some background on Amsterdam, and you will learn some new things. So the funny thing is, of course, we can also do this with the smartphone. You could actually go to Amsterdam. It's probably much more fun. But there are actually you can do the same thing with the virtual version in Street View, and I say the real version with your handheld. And the last example I want to share with you is actually something completely different. It's a hostage simulation. It's what they call a real-world training for critical situations. This we do together with the UNHCR, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. It's actually a contact of mine because I used to work there before I turned back to the Open University 3 years ago. And as you can imagine, for UN personnel, they come in a lot of situations which may be potentially dangerous. Or, like in this case, have hostage being taken. And at the moment, or actually for years, they have been trained by self-study packages, online e-learning, but it's all quite, let's say, theoretical. It's all the steps, and you get some pictures, but you don't feel, there's the drill, I mean, what's really happening, you don't really experience. So what we are doing with them is have a mobile version of this hostage training. Of course, the real thing would, well, not the real thing. Let's say a role play with actors and everything in a real situation would be, let's say, more ideal. But as you can imagine, would be very expensive to organize. So we thought that this is a very good thing to do. And what's built in? It's a game. It has steps. It has constraints. You have to collaborate. You have to act very fast. So the stress of the situation is created through what they call a notification framework. I mean, things you have to do with very little time, and through the multimedia part. And this actually has been the game has been based on an existing game. They run in a hotel, but has been very difficult to manage for the instructors. So we are actually partly automating this game. Yeah, and the students, I mean the staff, they will have different roles. I mean, if you see on the bottom, they have staff, welfare, head of office, security official, and so on. So they get realistic roles assigned. So just to get you an idea of it, there are the different groups taking the different roles, and they, depending on their role, would get messages. It always says important message on their smartphone, which they have to do something with. And I don't know whether it will play. And this is, I just show you the video the hostage takers send to the head of the office. If it works. Yes.
My name is Jerry Khan. I work with UNHCR in Suremia. I've been kidnapped. I don't know where I am. I need help. They wouldn't tell me where I am. I need your assistance. I need help. You can help me. Please help.
And this multimedia has been based on actual hostage-taking situations. I mean, it's quite realistic. I mean, it's badly lit, the way he talks, the information he gives. So I would say all the audio visuals are very, very, very realistic. And what they have to do then is they get a question. We put it in multiple choice to make it easier, actually. And some things are open. I mean, you will see in a minute. There is some open feedback. But it's like, okay, what do you do? Left or right? Or maybe 3 options. And here you see what you may do after informing your country representative. You would make contact with the hostage takers, or you would talk to your colleagues, yeah, and other staff which in the other roles. And if you do it wrong, you can repair it. But as you can imagine, for all these steps these different teams take are being stored, and they are being used for the debriefing. And I mean, the debriefing is not new. That was there in the old version of the game as well. But the difference is that now, for every role, we could exactly see who did what, when, and when did something go wrong. So it's more, the debriefing is actually more effective. And there is a similar thing with the Florence case. What you can see here is that they also have to do some brainstorm and find out different steps to do. And they have to share it, like you see in the picture, with the other teams, which are, let's say, in another room or a little bit farther away, by taking a picture. Yeah. This game has been run several times in the headquarters of UNHCR, and only once, actually last December, and actually in the field. It's in Entebbe, and we found actually the game itself was fine, but we found some of the problems. The internet was not very reliable. There were electrical cuts. Well, actually, the smartphones would work, but the light would go off. So this is not very easy if you rely on technology. So you have to build in some safeguards. What we actually did technically is design the game in such a way that it doesn't have to be online all the time. So if there's a drop in the internet or in the phone signal, I mean for the UMTS network, it still would continue. Yeah. With the real staff, we did only once. We did an interview with them and a questionnaire. What's most striking is that the staff found it much more realistic than all the other things they've done before on paper, pencil, or at a desk. And what we will do with the UNHCR is develop more scenarios in other domains, as it turns out to be a quite effective and affordable way to organize the training. So what we learned from all these examples is that if you look at the training or learning scenarios, is that if you use a smartphone in a real life situation, you find this context is always complex and it's all there. There's a lot of distractions. So what we found is that by using these tools, you can actually focus your students and let them do the things they need to do. We have to balance. I mean, a lot of focus is on the technology. I mean, there's lots of issues to do, but it should be actually about the design of the game or survey or fieldwork, whatever. But we think, and we will continue with that, is that it can enhance the learning to make it more dynamic, more personal, and actually put it into a real context. So we are happy with this, and we will work on other projects where we actually build more tools, more functionality in the AR Learn toolkit, preferably with others. We work with lots of the individuals and organizations, I'm happy to discuss in a minute with you what your ideas are about this. Just 2 more slides. One I want to mention. This is the mLearn conference. It's focused on this kind of tools. It's in October in Helsinki. We are organizing it with the Cicero, the institute in Helsinki. And if you want to contact me, there are the different options. I want to highlight one thing here is that we have in our university, beside the normal educational offerings, we are also using more open models, and we have a portal. It's called openu.nl. It's bilingual. It's in Dutch and in English. And we run, as the team, a topic with all training and relevant information on mobile learning. So you can actually go there and find lots of resources, other projects and things. So, and scientific articles. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to take a few questions.
Thanks. Very, very interesting, Fred. I was quite interested in understanding a bit more about, because I'm quite interested in these ideas around tagging physical environments. And have you done any research which has shown any kind of positive learning outcomes from taking that a kind of approach? And, you know, are there issues with, obviously, with experiment design when you're trying to actually find out, is that type of learning effective?
Yeah. I'm not myself involved in that part, but there are two colleagues busy with this. And, it's being started up. I don't have results yet. We are, in the lab, we have a setup where you can do this thing. And for example, the thing which we are actually adding to the AR Learn Toolkit now is if you have the, what do you call it, this code, what's it called? QRI? I forgot the name always. This you can take a picture. Where, help me please, someone. What's the name? This you can print even you see it in ads on billboards. You can put it, and you get a web address. QR codes, right? Yeah, and we are going to add that to the toolkit. So let's say if you do a game and you put stickers or leaflets in town, you can actually use the QR as a confirmation. QR code as confirmation you've been there and you've done something, or you have marked it. Yeah. But the topic is on the list, and if you look at one of the first slides, we are busy with that, and I'll be happy to inform you about that. But I can't tell you anything more at the moment. Thank you. Yes, please.
I don't know if it's necessary. Okay, just in case. I've got a question. I really like the augmented reality thing, but I don't know if it's a good balance between the effort that people need to make in order to make one of these applications and the outcome of it. Plus, nowadays, like especially this week when Apple has announced that they're not going to use Google Maps anymore, I think that may be kind of a drawback for the design and development of one of these things, isn't it?
Look, we of course are interested in scaling it up with the faculties and making use of it, and then these kind of changes are drawbacks. But we are still on the R&D side to finding out what's the best way to do it. The problem is, of course, that all these tools are changing rapidly, and new services are being brought in. To be honest, I think if you look at the two pilots we did in Florence, then let's say the augmented part was nice for us, but it also works without. I mean, the students, actually that's what students sometimes do, is they look at the list of assignments and they would start them manually, yeah? Nothing augmented, yeah? But they appreciate the tool, I mean the device, to collect the data, which is in the end what counts, because the data they use for their scientific reports. So, maybe, so the smartphone helped them, but maybe not the augmented part. But of course, that's why we did the experiment, to find out, yeah? So I'm not that negative. I think it's a great time we're living in. We have lots of new opportunities. We have as researchers, we have to try them out and find what's the added value, if there is. And if there's not, then we should leave it alone. I think so.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.